Today we're talking about the second Yama, Satya, truth. Satya is an important practice. Truthfulness is an important practice if we're going to be practicing yoga. My guru once said, if you want to get rid of fear, if you want to overcome fear, you've got to practice truthfulness. There's a lot of sense to that. And of course, without getting free from the fear, we'll never be able to meditate. We'll have the layer of guilt and fear in the subconscious. And when we sit, just these feelings will come up of fear. We won't be able to see through beyond to the superconscious to have the spiritual experience. So truth is a very important practice. This means being honest about things that you've done, things that you've not done. Not trying to make excuses. Not trying to mislead people, not trying to put blame onto somebody else. If you've come late to work, you shouldn't make up all kind of excuses. You shouldn't say, oh, there was a car accident, so I had trouble to get there on time. You should say, well, I slept through my alarm. I didn't mean to, but I did. I overslept. I'm sorry. The problem with lying about things like this, what if someone saw you? What if one of your coworkers who had to come in later that day was driving next to you and saw you and said there's no accident was there on the road? The other problem, if we start to lie, life becomes complicated. And for a yogi, we want life to be very simple. We don't want life to be too complicated. If you start lying to one person, then you have to lie to other people too. If you tell one lie to some person and a different lie to another person, it becomes very complicated. You have to start to remember which lies you told. So we've got to be straightforward, we've got to be open, we've got to be honest. The point is not to misrepresent yourself. To be true to who you are who is evolving. You have to be brave to look within to see really what's going on so you can admit it to yourself and to others. A lot of people, they're not even honest with themselves. You ask someone, how do you feel about this that just happened to you? They say, oh, I feel fine. Maybe they're avoiding the emotions. And so we have to be honest with ourselves first so we can be honest with other people. You have to have a lot of courage to look within. But then you have to have humility and humbleness so that you can admit to other people what you've done wrong or what you've not done that you should have done. However, when it comes to other people, we've got to understand that Satya is established in love, in compassion. You don't want to say bad things about other people just because it's true. I'll give a very simple, good example. You guys, you may have experienced that a woman in your life, your sister, your mother, your spouse, may have been preparing to go to some special occasion, a wedding of somebody or something. They dress for 2 hours, they're putting on their makeups, putting on the clothes, they change the clothes 10 times. They come down, they say, oh, how do I look? They ask a simple question, of course, you shouldn't necessarily answer truthfully. If the answer is you think they're not looking too good, it's not really what they mean to ask. Really, they mean to say, oh, I spent 2 hours getting ready. I'm feeling still just a little bit insecure. I would like a compliment to help me to feel confident to go out. We've got to be kind. And they just say these are white lies. They say that it's not so bad if we tell these lies. But it's true. Even when someone has done something really bad, it's not our duty necessarily to try to see that they get punished or blamed for it. In our speech, we should try to help others avoid blame. We should put others up, praise people. Don't focus on the negative things. And you don't need to necessarily be dishonest. You could just focus on the positive qualities. Every person, they may have some negative qualities, they have some positive qualities. And you could talk all day about negative qualities, or you could talk all day about positive qualities. You should talk about the positive qualities. But for yourself, you've got to be honest. You've got to admit the faults, admit the difficulties that you're having. Don't lie. Don't misrepresent yourself. Don't take credit for the work that someone else did. Don't take a quote that someone else wrote and plagiarize that and then act as if you had written it. We've got to be truthful, but we've got to be careful what we say as well. We've got to have wisdom in our speech. A lot of times you'd do better to be silent than to speak at all. You've got to sit back and think and say something only when it's very important. People chatter all day. They're talking too much. They say a lot of things that they don't mean. Especially when people get emotional, they say things they don't mean. I hate you. I hope you'll die. People say this kind of thing. But we've got to be careful. They say when a yogi progresses in their practice and the consciousness comes up to the throat chakra, that anything that yogi says will be true or it will come to be true. When you do a lot of mantra sadhana, you build up that prana around the speech. That vak, shakti, the power of speech becomes very intensely empowered from the vibration of the mantra, and then whatever you say, it will come to happen. And there are yogis who are at this place. I can share a story of my first guru's guru, my Parama Guru. He was getting aged in Sri Lanka, in the 70s, maybe late 70s. He was starting to have trouble to walk around, and in the heat of the summer in Sri Lanka, it was very hot. He was walking with one disciple of his one day in the very hot sun, and they'd have to sit and rest every few minutes because the old guru was having trouble walking around, and he felt bad. He was slowing down his student. He said, "Oh, I wish we had a ride." And just then, they had so they were starting to get some cars in those days. Just then, about 7 of his devotees all showed up at the same time in their cars. And they, "Oh, Guruji, let us give you a ride. Let me give you a ride. No, let me give, no, I want to." And they're fighting about who can give the ride. And the Guruji just put his hands up and said, "Oh, it is dangerous to wish for things." And that Guruji showed many times that, when the powers of yoga are at a certain point, the things that a person wishes for, it just comes to be. And even his devotees would come and their wishes would just be fulfilled in the presence of their master. One time, he lived in a hut in the middle of the jungle there in Sri Lanka. And people would have to walk for like half a day to get to the hut. And so these 2 disciples had gotten up very, very early before the sun to get there around sunrise, and they arrived there, and they hadn't taken any food, of course, because they're going to see the Guruji. And they got there, and he said, "Oh, you've walked a long distance. You've walked a long way. You must be very hungry. Can I offer you something to eat?" And that disciple thought to himself, "Well, I am very hungry. It's very generous of Guruji to offer us some food. I am very hungry. Let me think. What's the simplest thing possibly I can think that I don't want to cause any trouble for the Guru? What's the simplest thing that I could eat for a breakfast?" And he thought, just banana and idli. And no sooner than he had that thought, a guy showed up with a tray of bananas and idlis that no one had seen before. No one saw again after that. The guy just walked in with a tray of banana and idli and offered it to him. He just had the thought. And so this kind of thing clearly is definitely possible for the yogis. So many stories like that are there. But of course we'll never get there if we're not speaking carefully, if we're not saying what is true. The other thing is we have to honor our word. If you say you're going to do something, you should do it. Even if you say something and you didn't think it out very well, it's better if you stop and you think out very well. If someone says, oh, can you come on Saturday night to the event? You should stop and think. You should look at your calendar book and you should think about what else you have going on. And you should think carefully, do I want to do this? Do I want to attend this event? And then only RSVP, yes. But if, and this is where it gets complicated. If you say, well, I didn't want to hurt their feelings, so let me just say yes. I could always back out later and say that something came up. We shouldn't do this. This goes against the practice of satya. Maybe we could say this is a white lie, but really it's better you tell them right there and then, because by the time you say, yes, I'm coming, they're probably making food for you. They're making plans that you're going to be there. It's very important that we do what we say. And so even if you say something, I can complete this task, and then it turns out to be harder than you thought. It's really best that you try very hard to complete that task. Because what does this do? This empowers you, the Vak Shakti, the power of speech. It empowers your speech. If you can say things that are honest and you can do what you say that you'll do, and you're not talking to try to build up the ego. See, that's the thing. When you say bad things about other people, you're building up ego. Because it's the ego that wants to put other people down. The higher self has love and compassion. This is really like violence in speech. But when you build yourself up falsely, when you create a false identity for yourself, when you post a photo of yourself on your Facebook that's 10 years younger than you actually are, to try to mislead people. If you're on a dating site and you post a false photo from 20 years ago. Even when you go out, if you're wearing makeup covering your face like you're wearing a mask, you're covering your true identity. In a sense, this is a false representation of yourself. In a sense, this is asatya. Asatya is untruth. It's falsehood, falsity. And so we've got to be truthful. Because as we practice truth, we're going to wind up beating down the ego. As we practice falsity, we're going to be building up the ego. And so it's very important in yoga that we be truthful. Om asatyena rajasa vartamano niveshayan amritam martyam cha hiranyayena savitharathena devoyate bhuvana vipasyane. Om Vagdevyed Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Shakambhari Gayatri Tanno Devi Prachodayate. Om Narayanye cha vidmahe Shakambhari Gayatri Tanno Devi Prachodayate. धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयाते। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नारायण्ये च विद्महे शाकम्भर्ये च धीमहि तन्नो देवी प्रचोदयात्।
Instructions for the meditation are to sit silently, spine straight, shoulders back and relaxed. Close your eyes. Allow yourself to see the inner light of the divine radiating from your heart. If you do not see it, feel it. If distracting thoughts or feelings come into the mind, allow them to be. Witness them without hesitation, without judgment, without analysis. Allow the light of the divine to heal them, bringing deep peace and wisdom. In light, all darkness vanishes. Practice sitting in the inner light, which is bright like 10 million suns. Let this light heal you. Invite that experience. Allow it to guide your consciousness and impel your actions for the highest good of the three realms. Om. Puja is the traditional system of offerings coupled with mantras and visualizations revealed by the sages to help people seek the assistance of divine beings in their lives and spiritual practice. Puja ceremonies can be simple, as in the case of the offerings made daily in the homes of millions of Hindus, or extremely complicated, as are the rituals of temple consecration, which require the participation of hundreds of devotees and dozens of well-trained priests. The oil lamps, fruits, flowers, water, herbal incense, and other offerings provide prana, or subtle nutrients, for the devas and other inner realm beings to send blessings to the physical realm. The sacred mantras open a channel to the inner realms. The effects of puja are powerful to bring about peace and healing. During puja, problems are mysteriously resolved and answers to difficult questions arise spontaneously by the grace of the many inner plane beings working to fulfill our prayer, empowered by the sacred mantras and offerings. We are conducting a simple Pancha Puja of 5 offerings. These offerings relate to the 5 elements and are Pushpa, a flower, which symbolizes the ether element; Gandha, or sandalwood paste, connected to the earth element; Dhupa, incense, symbolic of the air element; Deepa, light, symbolizing fire; and Naivedyam, food relating to water.
Adya purvokta evam gunavisheshena vishishtayam asyam shubhatithau Sri Soma Matha Sanghasya asmakam sah kutumbhanam kshemasthirya virya vijaya ayura roga aiswaryanam abhivriddhartham Shri Shakambhari Devi Prasada Siddhyartham Yatha Shakya Shri Shakambhari Devi Pancha Pujam Karisye Om Apa Upasprisya Om Jata Veda Zezunavama Soma Marathi Hato Nidahati Vedaha Sanah Parshadati Durgani Vishvanaveva Sindhum Duritatyaknihi Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Asmin Chitrapathe Sri Shakambhari Devim Avahayami Sthapayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Gandhan Dharayami Gandhasyopari Haridra Kumkumam Samarpayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Pushpam Pujayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Dhupam Agrapayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Deepam Darshayami Om Amritamastu Amritopastaranamasi Om Pranaya Swaha Om Apanaya Swaha Om Vyanaya Swaha Om Udanaya Swaha Om Samanaya Swaha Om Brahmane Swaha Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Naivedyam Nivedayami Tambulam nivedayami Amritaphaniyam samarpayami. Om Yopam Pushpam Veda Pushpavan Prajavahan Pashuman Bhavati Chandramava Apam Pushpam Pushpavan Prajavahan Pashuman Bhavati Ya evam Veda Yopamayatanam Veda Ayatanavan Bhavati Rajadhirajayah Prasaya Sahine Namo Vayam Vahi Shravanaya Kurmahe Same Kaman Kama Kama Yahmahyam Kameshwaro Vaihe Shravano Dadhatu Kuberaya Vaishravanaya Maharajaya Namaha Yo Vedado Swarah Prokto Vedante Cha Pratishtitaha Tasya Prakriti Linasya Yah Parasamaheshwaraha Narayanye Cha Vidmahe Shakambhare Cha Dhimahi Tatno Devi Prachodayate Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devi Namaha Om Bhurbhuvassuvaha Om Avahitabhyas Sarvabhyo Devatabhyo Namaha Vedokta Mantra Pushpanjalim Samarpayami Kale Varshantu Parjanyaha Prithive Sasya Sahitni Desho Hyam Kshobarahitaha Brahmana Sandhu Nirbhayaha Bhagavata Sandhu Nirbhayaha Sajjana Sandhu Nirbhayaha Sarvechana Sandhu Nirbhayaha Swaste Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahimahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Lokah Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Aim Kara Hrim Kara Rahasya Yukta Shrim Kara Gudhartha Mahavibhutya Om Kara Marma Pradipadinibhyam Namo Namaha Shri Guru Padukabhyam Ajnana Nashanaya Vidmahe Jnana Prakashaya Dhimahi Tapno Guru Padukah Prachodayate Om Shatamanam Bhavati Shatayuh Purushashatendriya Ayushevendrihe Pratitishthati Om Sahatna Vavatu Sahatna Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sate Shri Devi Arpanamastu.
Thank you for coming. Sorry about the audio issues through the broadcast, just a little technical difficulties. Please join the Patreon. The link is in the description of this video. There's also a link to be able to post your mantras that we've accumulated through the chanting. Please remember to donate, volunteer, and spread the word about our upcoming move. Namaste.